Hello, sir. I welcome you to the podcast of energy, where we'll be discussing topics in and around energy. So, we first really want to know how did you got introduced to the field of energy?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me in this podcast. It's really wonderful to get back to the institute and the department and connect with you all guys. So basically, I have a background of Bachelor of Science in Physics. It's back in 2007 I completed. And then I was trying to apply into IITs. As you have all gone through JEs, then for BSc we generally go into JAM, Joint Admission to MSc programs. So I applied in that, and I got the opportunity to come into renewable energy. So right now it may seem a little bit kind of odd, but back in those days we really did not have that much facilities with the computers or access to easy knowledge. And renewable energy itself was very kind of primitive. There is not enough awareness about renewable energy. So I just got into some of the details that, in fact, IIT Bombay had sent me as a brochure. That kind of made me curious, and then I thought, let me try and this new area. I was not sure whether I would be able to kind of continue for a long time because it was MSc and PhD program. And coming from a background of physics, I mean, people are generally kind of very particular about going into their only streams. I joined physics BSc out of love, and in fact, I kind of didn't go into the any counseling of the engineering. I joined into BSc Physics because I wanted to study physics. Uh, then after I came here, initially it was a bit kind of tough for the first 1 year because we needed to study a lot of things apart from physics. There are a lot of engineerings also, chemical engineering, then part of mechanical engineering, etc., etc. But anyway, so after the first, maybe around mid-semester, I kind of understood that, okay, this is a good way to advance my career. And it's an upcoming field back in that time, 2007-8. And it's very important. I mean, it's by that time I could understand what is climate change, why renewable energy is so important, and things like that. But anyway, so then I started, and so MSc was broadly, you can say, an amalgamation of all different technologies. And then near the end of our MSc, we were given this option to select which area you want to go. Right now, I think in the department there are many professors. So that time, I think we had around 9 or 10 professors mainly. And our batch was very small. It was we were the first batch that got admitted into MSc PhD program of Department of Energy, Science and Engineering. So coming from the background of physics, I always liked concepts of electronics and semiconductor physics. So that's why I thought this is an area I want to get into. In fact, one of my batchmates and I, because there are limited professors available for PhD, so he had only one of us can go into one professor. That was the rule. So even one of my batchmate and myself, we were into a fight. I mean, I told that I want to join into solar cell research. He also wanted to do solar cell research. But anyway, he then found some other area. In fact, he did not continue actually after the MSc. He left and he joined some government jobs or something like that. So mainly out of in fact, I had a good bit of confidence in semiconductor physics. So I thought solar cell research would be the best thing that we can do. And then luckily, Professor Chetan Singh Solanki got the big project of NCPRE. You have heard about NCPRE, right? National Center for Photovoltaic Research in
Yes.
Education. So it got approved around that time, I think 2009-10 at that point of time. So we straight got into work, and myself, many other students of energy and energy science and engineering, as well as electrical engineering. So we were the people who kind of started it from scratch, that developing that lab and things like that. So probably around 2011 or 12, the lab got completed, and then the experimental work started. Before that, we were doing a lot of simulation work, some literature review, background work, those kind of things. So that is the thing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you. And sir, we really want to know that how was your experience being an assistant professor and also an engineer in Solar Energy Corporation of India? So would you like to please
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
something?
So you need to understand that most of the people who go into PhD, or specifically coming from the science background rather than engineering background, coming from science background and going into PhD, let me be honest. I mean, there is mainly one area people try to focus. It's basically academics, whether it's a research institute or academic position as an assistant professor or so. So that's generally the idea. I mean, we all know that we are mostly going into that direction, and maybe some people go into industry, but as you understand, as you go up in the hierarchy of education, the opportunity goes down. I mean, the number of people also goes down, but opportunity also goes down, because not many industry would like to hire people from a research background, because they don't have that kind of, you can say, facilities to absorb them and let them work with a kind of environment that they need. So largely most people who go into PhD and postdocs, so they mainly aim for an academic position. So that's one thing. But before going into academic positions, many people want to go for a postdoctoral fellowship, or they have try to have some sort of industrial experience. So I chose to stay in India. Out of my personal reasons, I chose to stay in India, and then I got into this Solar Energy Corporation of India. So let me first start there, and then I'll talk about the assistant professor part, like in a chronological order. So that was a smaller, you can say, profile. It was a position to kind of coordinate on behalf of SECI with the Ministry of Shipping. So I was actually deputed in the Ministry of Shipping. So Ministry of Shipping was planning 135 megawatt solar PV power plant in their ports. So India has a lot of ports, and out of them there are 9 ports which are called major ports. So which are quite big. They handle a lot of cargo movement, etc., etc. And these ports are very big actually, and they have a lot of land, etc., extra land available. And because they are big, they have a lot of power consumption also. So the ministry, it was led by Minister Nitin Gadkari actually. So he was very kind of fond of renewable energy, and he, wherever he goes, he wants to push for renewable energy. So he told the ports that, look, you are consuming a lot of power, you have a lot of empty lands, unutilized land, so why don't you install some power plants? So that's how they set a target of, I think, 150 megawatt total, out of which 15 megawatt was about to come from wind, and remaining 135 was supposed to come from solar. Now, Ministry of Shipping don't have any kind of expertise in renewables, so they handed it over to SECI. Okay, you come on board as a consultant, and you help us install these projects in the ports and get us a fair good of deal. So that was the project actually, and in that project, the ministry wanted somebody from SECI should be there in the ministry to coordinate between the ports, the ministry, as well as SECI. And there is another organization called Indian Port Association. So the ports are very rich actually. So ministry didn't want to kind of, you can say, put some money. So they needed somebody to put a danda on behalf of the ministry to the ports, as well as they wanted to put a danda to SECI also, that you are slowing down the whole work. So that was my job actually. Now I was employed from SECI, and I was told to do a danda on SECI. So that was the kind of funny thing. But anyway, broadly speaking, I was kind of the coordinator of the whole, you can say, program for about eight months, I think, 8 months or so. And then as I tried to go into these things, I was working with the joint secretary of the Ministry of Shipping and the additional secretary of the Ministry of Shipping. So secretary is the highest position and additional secretary at the same level. So at that level, they used to follow up. I mean, that's the seriousness of the projects. But anyway, I was just coming out of IIT Bombay, fresh graduate, didn't have much understanding about the government systems and so. So it was a tough time initially, but I somehow survived. And then I was also told that, look, you are looking into these things, but since you are from renewable energy background, why don't you look into other aspects of renewable energy that the ministry is handling? So at that point of time, ministry was curious to look into very seriously biodiesel. I mean, there is a project. I don't know whether it has finally landed or it has finally been conceptualized or not. There's a kind of concept that ministry was working on, connecting all the ports through waterways, so that your cargo comes from the seaside, and then within inland, you transfer it, instead of by road, you transfer it through the waterways. Now, if you're using waterway, again, you have the issue of pollution by diesel and etc. etc. So that's why ministry was very focused on to using biodiesel, as well as in some of the bigger ports, they also have some of the railway tracks where from the port end towards the road, they will carry all the cargo on the railway. So there also they wanted to replace biodiesel. So this was so they wanted to look into those things, what is going on. And then it's a big organization, so many people will come up with new ideas and understanding that we can do this, we can do that. So they wanted me to do a kind of vetting or due diligence on these concepts, which one can we pick and go ahead and things like that. So these are the things I was working on. And there are a lot of other things, small things. There are many consultants. I had to talk to them. Some of them would do some sort of renewable things. So they thought I am the god in renewable energy. So whatever renewable energy related issue comes, they will put me into.
So how was your transition basically from the academic background which you came through, and you're directly handling the industrial projects? So how was your transition?
That was tough actually. Specifically, if you go to a industry directly, probably you will get some kind of you can say, how should I tell it? You can still kind of smoothly move into the work. Maybe you have one good skill, you start with that one good skill. But if you go into a government industrial sector, so then it doesn't matter, whatever the government said, you have to do it. So that's the thing. So that was tough initially. First you have to understand who is who, and then what is the role of I mean, if I need a support from someone, who should I talk to? Can I talk to someone directly? Because there are a lot of protocols there also. If you're working in ministry, these are all IAS officers, right? Very senior IAS officers. So you need to follow certain protocol. So those things were tough. Mainly, I worked with Dr. Alok Srivastava, who was the joint secretary at that point. As additional secretary at that point of time. I think he is now the secretary of the Ministry of Justice right now. I don't know. Maybe he has retired. But he was very dynamic. I have seen him handling 3 meetings all together at the same point of time. So if you are starting to work with somebody like this, so you go into his room, it will be like very big room, like a big conference room in IIT maybe. So you'll have one set of people working in one corner, another set of people are working on some people just sitting in front of you. So that kind of dynamic work they do. So when you go there, you obviously feel very nervous coming from an academic background without any industrial experience. I mean, but I mean, after few months, I got. I understood the system, and then I was pretty much confident. They will scold you. I mean, they will scold you roughly. I mean, if you're failing or getting slow, they will scold you roughly. And my problem was that I was in the middle. I was supposed to connect between these two. Now SECI wanted to go slow because they want to do a proper analysis. Ministry wants to go fast. So I had to hold fort on both fronts. So that was a little bit
It is
difficult.
interesting to
But
know the ministry want to do fast progress.
yeah, no, ministry actually, if you go to the central ministries and above deputy secretary level, I mean, they work, I mean, like mad. I mean, they work like they come at maybe 8:30 and
Because
they
usually we
work
have
till
like a
8.
stereotype ki government work is
Yeah, that doesn't work in the central ministry. I mean, they work like crazy. I mean, I have seen them working like crazy. I mean, at one point of time, the prime minister office at that point of time, they asked to submit a report on what is the ministry doing on renewable energy. So obviously they sent me, I mean, to write down the report, find out what is going on, everything. So, and everything happens within a day. I mean, today morning they'll ask you, by evening you have to furnish with every details. I mean, otherwise there are a lot of protocols, like they'll issue memo and a lot of things will happen. But anyway, I was not, I was not, I was kind of shielded from that because I was a kind of a consultant. But anyway, so you get the hard talk from the bosses. Anyway, so I was leaving the office at 8:30. The joint secretary was still working. He called me. I was in the metro. I came back in the metro, and by night 9 o'clock we finished it and sent it again. So they work like crazy. I mean, so
But
that
there would
is.
be great learning there, right?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, it was tough time, but it was wonderful time. I mean, I had a lot of understanding about the
Yeah.
system, even though I was not exactly part of the system, but I understood how it works. I mean, what are the good things that the government system has, and maybe the bad things also. I mean, why there is a bottleneck, why things doesn't get done. So that also I tried to understand. So that helped me a lot in the next part actually. In fact, when I joined as an assistant professor, this is the experience they valued actually more than my PhD. I mean, I talked about all my research and other things. Then they asked me, tell me about what you did with the ministry. So obviously, that's a good thing. I mean, and in fact, it helps in your later part of the career also. If you are joining any academic organization, eventually you have to kind of get the food for yourself. If you're in a private sector, this TERI School of Advanced Studies is a private sector university. So you have to get your food. I mean, it's not like IIT, you get a salary confirmed from the central government. So you have to fetch a project, you have to get students. So all those things are there. So when you are approaching for a project to a government ministry, you know what the ministry thinks, what is their priorities and things like that. Why they ask you something, and so you understand those things. So that helps you a lot in the later part of the career.
Okay. So, sir, like experience count in the academic section as well, like you
Yeah.
said. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so we would like to know that what, according to you, is the future of energy 10 years down the line? What do you see according to you?
See, look, what I have understood is that not much. I mean, industrial level research is going on in India, frankly speaking. If you look
Mm-hmm.
into all the different energy sector, mainly solar, photovoltaic, and wind energy, these are the two bigger sectors. Other sectors are
Mm-hmm.
fairly smaller in terms of its market share. I mean, even in we talk about rooftop solar and things like that, these things are not picking up. And government of India has been trying to do or trying to promote manufacturing in India, but in a globalized market, that has become very difficult. They have tried many things actually. They have tried promoting the domestic production through tendering process itself, or giving financial incentive and things like that, but it is not picking up. So unless there is a big manufacturing that is happening in India, uh, there will not be much of a role of an engineer as well as a research scholar. To be honest, I mean, these are standard products that is coming from outside. You need a civil engineer, you need a electrical engineer to deliver the plant. So that's the largely thing. And if you visit, have you guys visited any solar PV plants or any wind plant yet?
No, not from, not
Ask your
physically.
professors to take you. Ask your professors. There are a lot of plants near
Yes, yes.
Satara, and ask your professors to take you. We didn't realize these things actually, so we did not get any chance. So, in fact, in our university, we actually take students in one semester. Every second semester, I take students to the visiting the plants to
Yes.
take a look what is going on, how much
So
energy is
like
being
usually
generated.
it like happens in each year actually, once each year. So last year we went
Hmm.
to a nuclear power plant, but
Hmm.
compared to the solar power plant, its mechanism is totally different and everything.
Matlab, I'm not saying just go to solar power plant, go to
Ah,
solar power plant, wind power plant, but I generally, if I remember correctly, during our times, it was generally organized by the students.
students, yes.
I don't know what is what happens this right now, but that time it was generally organized by Energy Club or
Yeah.
the department MTech students, and but it is better that you go through a professors and
Ah,
take them with you and talk to the people, maybe a general manager there, and people like that. Ask them what is the energy generation, what are the challenges, what are the cost factors,
ah,
how you are pricing the renewable energy, because these are the things you need to know. You are working on technology development is
yes.
fine, but unless you know what is the market all about, how much is the fierce competition, uh,
Hmm.
I think those understanding would be very helpful. So that is, so yeah, so I think solar and wind is probably going to develop quite a lot. Maybe the biofuel part, biodiesel part, but other technologies are still kind of in a premature scenario in India. There is a lot of talk about happening about the hydrogen energy also, uh, but see, all the renewable energies are now market competitive, right? So you don't
Hmm.
generate any renewable energy at 17 rupees or 12 rupees, and you need to beg the government to sell it. It's not like that. Now your renewable energy pricing is like 2.3 rupees, 2.5 rupees or something like that. It's cheaper than coal actually. So it's completely in the market mechanism. So market has picked it up. So if there is a demand from other technologies is producing energy in a smaller price, so then people will go for that. So that's why I think hydrogen and other things, they probably will come, but I think it's not that easy. So that is my
Hmm.
opinion. But solar and wind is fairly kind of standardized, but as I said, there is not enough job in India in that this sector. These
Yeah.
are mostly commercial sectors, but there are not, because if you compare to a thermal power plant or a nuclear power plant, the number of people you
Hmm.
need once you install the plant, there is not much
Hmm.
requirement. There are few
Yeah.
maintenance guy, 1% or 2% handling a 50 megawatt or 100 megawatt plant. So
Hmm.
maybe 6, 7, 8 people maximum. A 100 megawatt plant today will cost you around 400 crore rupees. So 400 crore
Hmm.
investment run by only 5, 6 people. So in terms of other sector, the manpower demand and the after you install a project, that is low. But if you go
Hmm.
to the manufacturing side, there you need more people. So if there is a manufacturing that is happening in a to a good extent, then probably there is a very good possibility in terms of very prospectus, I mean, prospective career, or you can say prosperous career. But otherwise, it's a tough challenge. It's a tough area.
And so, what message would you like to give to the energy, like who are interested in this domain, to the youngsters? What message you would like to give?
So look, when I kind of joined this sector, I mean, we used to talk about a term called grid parity. I don't know whether these days also professor teach you that also not. That time the idea was like my renewable energy is about 12 rupees or 9 rupees per unit cost. And finally, I want to make my energy system efficient, my power generation kind of larger capacity plant, so that the cost of my renewable energy is coming at the parity with the grid or conventional electricity. So that was the idea. Right now we have crossed that. We are now cheaper, and now the competition in the market is fierce, at least for the utility scale plants. So now you need to probably be very careful on type of things or type of project you are working on, because it should be highly applicable to, at least in solar and wind sector, it should be highly applicable to the market economics or market commercial issues that we are looking at. You cannot talk about things which are kind of fascinating in general, but cannot be taken up to the market. So that is one thing. And on the newer energy generation side, obviously there are a lot of scopes. If you're looking into hydrogen storage or electric vehicle or battery and things like that, obviously there are a lot. These are new, these are still primitive, not primitive, but at least in a pilot scale. So those areas you can explore. But because solar and wind are highly commercial now, so the kind of projects that you are looking into, and specifically I would suggest, why not look into problems industry is facing. I mean, the forecasting issue, how to take. In fact, till now we have been working on the concept of power purchase agreement. Let's say you set a plant and you go to Tata Chemicals and say that, look, you are buying conventional power at 5.5 rupees. I'll sell you renewable power at 4.5 rupees. But you sign a deal with me for 25 years. So that's called PPA, long-term agreement. Right now, recently, last 1 year or 1.5 year, renewable has entered into something called spot market or energy exchange. That means today, right now, you go to the market and say, by between 12 and 12:30, I'll generate this much power. I can sell you at this much price. Now, a particular industry, they have already been told that, okay, look, I won't be able to supply you power during this period of time. So you need power for production of your production process to continue. So for that short period of time, you will buy power at much higher cost. So this is called energy exchange or spot market. So renewable has entered into that area also. So it's very dynamic and you can say very price sensitive. So whatever you develop or whatever technology you are working on, keep a very good eye on the price index. So that's very important. If you do that, that would be kind of helpful for you also to showcase in the future. Okay, this is what was the standard in the market, and this is what I have developed.
And also we should choose our domain according, like, which is in high demand, is it? Like in the future, what it would
that
be.
is you can say that is kind of a trade-off. I mean, you can go by your dream sector or your expertise sector, but at the end of the day, you also need to survive in the world, right? If you are starting your own kind of company, that's well and good, but even in that scenario also, if you don't have a market, you won't be able to. You're all engineers, right? Most of you are engineers. So unless you kind of sell your skill or expertise, you need to survive. So you have to make a trade-off between these two things. I mean, you cannot be completely dreamy, but obviously if you are excellent and you kind of bring out of the box thinking, then obviously everybody will appreciate it. There's obviously somebody to pick it up. But look into, because you are in the technology sector, eventually you will go into the professional sector. So you need to keep those things in mind. In fact, there are many things which are cross-cutting. I mean, which are not technology specific. For example, energy economics, energy policy. These are cross-cutting. I mean, there is no specific technology you need to focus. So you can look into those things also.
I have one question, that you have experience in both, like PhD also, and then as a engineer also you have worked. So what according to you is the best, like working as an assistant professor or an engineer? In short, in brief, you can tell.
Both have their perks and challenges.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I worked at Seki, I would have loved to work at Seki, to be honest with you, because it was very dynamic. You were working with the government. I mean, although
Yeah.
I mean, in general, it feels a little bit odd, but you actually would love to work with the central government if you are working at that level. You would really enjoy
Yeah.
it. But the problem is that they won't give you salary. I mean, they will give you
Oh,
very cheap salary and things like that. So, in fact,
okay.
to be very honest, when I worked, they were giving me just 30K. So it's very small to survive in there. So
Yeah.
if they could have given me a good, decent salary, then I would have loved to work there. Assistant
Yeah.
professor, there is other parts. You get good salary, as well as you can decide what kind of work you want to do. So that is there. But handling, teaching students, handling research, then getting funding, it's a little bit kind of tough in that sense also. You have to play a multiple role in if you're in the academics. Industry, probably you have been given a certain role or something like that. In academics, you have to do a multi-role kind of job. But obviously, the dynamics of industry will not be there in academics. So that is there. So both have their
Yeah.
own kind of advantages and challenges in that sense.
I
So
asked
it's
this because usually at last we fumble like either to go in academics or either to join some industry. What would be better? So in that way, I
the
asked.
ideal scenario. What was my plan? My plan was actually, if I could work for at least 3-4 years and then come to academics, that would have given me a lot of kind of confidence, and
Yeah.
that would have given me kind of an edge, and but yeah, I mean, better to get the feel of both sides. And I mean, I was kind of lucky in that sense. I started maybe for a shorter period of time, but it would have been better if I had continued and then joined the academics.
Okay. So, Athop, do you have any short questions?
No, it is an excellent talk. I mean, amazing. Your journey is
Yeah.
really amazing, and I would really
Yeah.
like to explore such a task. At least like what you like explained about NCPR.
In
So
fact,
I
in
Yeah.
fact, if you are interested,
uh,
I know, but being from an IIT, I am guessing you are all BTech, MTech students, right?
yeah, BTech.
Dual degree
Yeah.
students.
So basically,
Yeah.
So being
my
Yeah.
major
I'm
is
master's.
material
Yeah.
science.
So generally,
Yeah.
see, coming from IIT Bombay, most of you would be aiming for a higher target. Mostly, you'll be looking at much bigger organizations and things like that. But what I have felt is that if you go to bigger organization, your role becomes quite significant or kind of narrow. You get very good skill, but it's very kind of specific area you work. If you go to a smaller organization, uh, it's massacre there, but you get the feel of a lot of things. So uh, during your final semester, if you, I don't know whether IIT Bombay will allow it or not, or during your summer breaks, government of India allows a lot of interns also. In fact, there are a lot of posts that is coming up from last 3-4 years, I think, in the Niti Aayog actually.
Yeah.
So then they will pay you very less amount of salary. You won't get any leave or things like that. But if you can go there, and if you're interested to work in India, let's say, you can
Yeah,
go to Niti Aayog and get a job for 6 months or 1 year maybe, just to get a feel of how the government system works. Okay. Indian government governance is very big actually. If you can make a dent in with your contribution, that's actually you should be very proud. I mean, if you are making something
yeah,
small contribution even in Indian governance system, it's actually very significant. I mean, a lot of people don't realize it. So you can try those things. I mean, these are just out after you're finishing your masters, or maybe towards the end during a summer break or so. You just do a small internship or something like that in the Niti Aayog, or maybe in some of the central ministries. So you get that feel actually. So that would help you a lot. Later on, you can go and start your own company. You can go and join IBM. You can go and join other companies. But these things will actually help, and these things actually help in terms of your CV also. They also look into
Yeah.
these things actually, because at the end of the day, they also need to talk to the government. They need to have people who understand the government system. So these things can help.
Yeah, this is an
Yeah.
amazing
Okay,
advice
that was
actually.
a great talk. I want to thank you, sir, on behalf of the team for sharing your
Okay.
experience and giving us so much good insights. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care.